Oh yeah, what do you guys think about a Brittany Griner swap of the Merchant of Death? Oh my gosh,
That was okay. Yeah, it was funny
greatest
because I
trade
think it was
ever.
a master play by the Russians because they did not just get Victor Boot back. They kind of embarrassed America on the world stage while simultaneously making Saudi Arabia look good and pulling Saudi Arabia, as since they were one of the mediators, pulling Saudi Arabia a little bit closer to Russia.
I
It's like a
heard that
triple play.
Russia's talking about a assassin that's, I guess, being held in Germany that they might be willing to trade for Wieland.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you might as well take a shot because you'll probably get it. I mean, how long is it going to be before we see Victor Boot slapping a big old pile of javelins going, you can fit so much anti-tank destruction in this bad boy? You know? I mean, he said, I saw an interview with him the other day and he was talking, well about America as a culture to a point, like the people and stuff. But then he started talking about all the talking points, America's losing its Christianity. America's into transgenderism. America's degenerate. It exports this. And, but he was like, when I was in prison, most of the people I met were from the Midwest and they're agricultural. So it's propaganda. But he's like, I got along with those people. I don't have a problem with Americans. He goes, I have a problem with the elites, so it's like he knows what to say and how to put that message out there that just keeps pounding away at the West and drives that wedge between people like me in the West who like those kind of values and our country's shitting all over them. And then there's other countries that are, based on my own life, like at different times they've been pretty shitty authoritarian countries, but now they're preaching the message that I would rather hear. It's kind of fucked up that it's going that far, swinging that pendulum that far back. But, I think in some ways Russia's fighting a good fight. It's fucked up that it happened, but I think there's side benefits that might help white cis males like me out down the road.
I actually saw this meme posted in a I don't even say pro-Ukrainian chat. It was just posted by this guy who said, be the Western country, be the America that Russia thinks you are, and had like this menacing picture of like a soldier, like in night vision goggles, like kicking down a door. And every single comment under that post were like, Russia thinks America's gay, fat, and retarded. What are you guys talking about?
I think that's
underestimating.
underestimating.
They know what to say and they know what messages to push because they know what people want to hear.
Yeah. Russia is a big country with a lot of people in it, and there's a lot of diverse views, a lot of diverse religions. Again, to just try and generalize that to me just drives me crazy. If I generalized about Americans, and I've lived in the States, we'd go nowhere. You've got to look at people as individuals, and there's got to be diversity, and there's diversity in Russia. There's even diversity if you watch. There's a guy from the Moscow School of Economics who's against the war in Ukraine, right? So people tell me all the time that there's no free speech, and if you talk against the war in Ukraine, you get in prison. Well, you'll find him on YouTube. I think it was yesterday or the day before. So I think generalization is really, really difficult.
Yeah.
Having lived in a few countries, by the way, what I see is that diversity is goodness, and let's all have our own opinions.
You can look at the United States. 80 million people voted for Trump, but those are 80 million Hispanics, blacks, Asians, whites of every possible background. And all I'm saying is there, our country, a lot of people believe certain things in certain things. They may not all be uniform, the 50s traditional family, but most people would agree, regardless of their race or background, that two parents are good. A dad who can support their family is good. The ability to afford an education and have opportunities is good.
I think you can broaden that. A parent who can support the family at least.
Yeah, even that. Yeah, exactly. The fact that they would have an opportunity to, as a single parent, to support a family.
Let me just give you an idea then.
And right now, we're not doing that. They shit on the family. They shit on men. They shit on traditional values. They shit on the things that work.
Okay, let's accept that the majority of any country might like traditional values. However, the secret of democracy is to look after minority rights. Because if you don't have a democracy that looks after minority rights, you're in an unstable situation, and it will be continuously unstable. And that's what democracy is all about. It's not about the majority oppressing the minority.
But see,
it's about the majority working with the minority.
The minority's rights are amplified to the point that they're oppressing the majority. I mean, in America, we don't throw gays off roofs, but we will bend over backwards for the LGBT community, and we obviously have. It's very apparent that we have. So the idea that we don't support minorities or protect minorities, I mean, I would dare say if you're a minority, despite how bad America is, you can come here and be safer.
That's not the point. The point is that a democracy can only exist and function correctly if it recognizes minorities. Yeah, I'm not saying the United States doesn't do that, but to try to oppress minorities on the basis that the majority thinks like this is fundamentally undemocratic.
Well,
but Johnny, doesn't this? I think it reflects a little bit.
Some minorities probably do need to be oppressed. I mean, I'm sorry, pedophiles are a minority. I don't have a problem oppressing them, and I think that's the problem. It's like there's aspects of our culture that we're allowing to gain control and influence, and it's bad. And it's not so much that they're a minority. It's just that they're latching on to groups. I mean, look at how the LGBT tries to put themselves in the same light as African Americans that were enslaved or, you know, whatever. It's like, it's not even the same kind of suffering and stuff. I'm not saying gay people didn't suffer, but your ass wasn't put on no ship and your ass wasn't whipped and shit. So get over it. You know, some guy called you a faggot one day. So
you need to take it a step further than that. Yes, people in the past were oppressed, brutalized, and injured in many, many different types of ways. If you live in a upper middle class neighborhood, right, with two parents, a wine mom, right, and your life was super comfortable, and you say you're gay, what reparations are you deserving of, right? What are you trying? What is your alternative?
And there, Alan, you are actually referring to quite a minority. That is an actual minority that is oppressing everyone else. Is those who are in such a position, right? We're talking minorities. But
Jordan Peterson actually put it very well. Jordan Peterson had this saying that whenever the rate of manipulators and psychopaths of a population, and manipulators and psychopaths are always a minority, whenever the rate of manipulators and psychopaths of a population exceeds 3 to 5%, is when you see these kinds of issues break down significantly.
I mean, it's insane what's going on in our country, and it has really nothing to do with a minority. It's subgroups in these minorities that are fucking insane. I mean, look at the shit they're pushing.
But what are you going to do about it? That's my point. You can't do anything about it except abolish democracy. If the United States became
an authoritarian Christian nation, would that be a bad thing?
Authoritarian.
It would be a bad thing for the degenerates,
right,
I guess.
I understand. Okay.
I mean, you could go, you know, you could become a Muslim caliphate, and that shit would be over with real quick. I'm not saying I'm going to live like that. I'm just saying there's ways to deal with it.
Look, Vaughn, the problem you face is that there is a minority. There is a minority in Ukraine, and they're in the Donbass, right? So one of the reasons I'm here tonight is because I largely support the right of that minority to self-determination. So let's not criticize minorities. You've got to be very, very careful.
I don't think that's what Vaughn was doing, but because Vaughn, I have to ask you one question. Do you think this LGBTQ thing have anything to do with democracy, or to be more on point? Do you think this LGBTQ thing? Yeah, right. Like, do you think it has anything to do with democracy? Like, do you think that has to do with anything like that, or for that matter? Do you actually believe you're living in a democracy?
I mean, it's a democracy in a way, but it's not because of all the shit that goes on. As far as someone's sexual preference, it doesn't have anything to do with democracy. The problem is they're using their position to damage the democracy that they say they care about. You know, they're using their position to damage a country that protects them, the system that protects them.
Give me an example. Give us an example of how they're damaging it.
Okay, I can do that.
So let somebody else talk. I mean, I could go drag shows for kids.
Yeah.
How is that damaging democracy?
So, okay. I
don't think it pertains to democracy.
Well, when it comes
if you
to
can't
Vaughn,
protect your children, how are you going to have a country or a future?
I'm going to
So
disagree
it's not a democracy.
a little bit that it talks about specifically democracy. I think what it damages is social cohesion. And you need social cohesion for a democracy. So that's why it's damaging the democracy. It's not directly, it's not like, yes, I'm trying to become the LGBT community is trying to rise up and take power and be some sort of tyrannical movement. I think they're damaging social cohesion, which ultimately ends up damaging the democracy. So it's
But
we also need
isn't this
diversity.
kind of technical, kind of endemic to the United States? Like it's always using any kind of there may be some real social injustice or things that need to be dealt with, but then it's always blown into a spectacle, right? So like this thing with the LGBTQ, sure there may be something to it, but it seems to me to be the habit, right? Basically, all little things, once you cannot ignore it, instead of actually addressing it in a sane, reasonable way, they blow it up into like a spectacle, which is out of proportions. And then, you either get a reactionary backlash or it just fizzles out and die and you don't deal with it. Or, yeah, like that's why my impression is that this has nothing to do with democracy. It's more like the using maybe there are some the issues that LGBTQ communities be facing and using that as a tool, twisting it around, and then using that against the general population, right? They tend to do this on every single level.
As I understand it, there are debates within the LGBT community as well, right? There are normal gay people that
get
don't
attacked
like
too
that.
because there's not enough of them. Those people get attacked too. Anyone that doesn't toe the line, gay or not, they fucking destroy. They go after it. There are gay people that are having legitimate arguments and discussions about what's going on. There's gay people that think it's wrong to expose children to this stuff at an early age, and those people get shut down. They get attacked. They get you might as well be a gay Uncle Tom if you're going to say anything that doesn't toe the line.
Yeah,
And that's
it's true.
that's the problem. These people
I've
they
seen
abuse their
that.
power, they abuse their position to inflict damage on the society as a whole, and they don't care.
Yeah. I think Milo Yiannopoulos was one of those. Like he's openly gay. At least now he's not. I'm not sure what he is now. But he was openly gay, and he was like arguing he's supporting Trump, and then he was calling out all the hypocrisies in society, in politics, and he got totally demonetized the platform entirely, totally. So he was like totally off the platform for like 2-3 years. So
you talk about Yiannopoulos?
Yeah, Milo. It was very scary because he's so well spoken, he's very knowledgeable, and he make very good arguments. But
they destroyed him.
Yeah, he's totally destroyed, and now he's coming back with a vengeance. He's one of the guys that is backing Kanye West, and he's creating a lot of chaos now.
I think he got let go from Kanye's campaign, but it doesn't matter. He's already back in.
Yeah, he achieved what he wanted.
He got the fame he needed off of that. But yeah, I mean, that's a perfect example. Milo Yiannopoulos is a guy who expresses conservative values, traditional values, even though he was a homosexual at the time. And because he doesn't toe the line, they completely destroyed that guy's life. I mean, he just disappeared. Like he never.
It has nothing to do with him being a minority. It has nothing to do with his race, gender, belief, creed. It's about identity politics. It's identity politics through and through.
That's a minority. That's a minority.
Like
I say things which people don't like, and they insult me. I talk about Russia and the war in Ukraine, and people insult me.
Yeah,
now,
as do I.
I'm happy for them to disagree, but when they insult me, I say, well, why are you insulting me? Because I don't have the same opinion as you do. So there is a democratic thing, and I'll say it again.
Like that. I mean, we can come on here and talk. Nobody's insulting anybody, but a lot of people aren't mature enough to do that. And we got people here from every probably age group and all around the world. And ain't nobody cussing anybody. We can talk, but we're not the ones
that will
the
actually insult. Those that will actually insult, right, will not dare to show their face on this open mic. I have tried many times. I have basically attack them on Twitter. You don't see any of those
guys that talk shit in the chat ever in here, ever.
Yeah. I get them to come on open mic. Say, if you think you know better than us, come on open mic. Share your views. Balance the views, whatever. No one.
Yeah, even all the shit they talk, they still wouldn't get cussed in here.
Oh, I'm telling you. I literally just call them out as cowards. I literally don't just publish them all over the place. It's not enough. They just wouldn't.
And that kind of goes back on Danny's point. And to a degree, it is democracy. You have the right to do that. You can come out here. You can express whatever you want to express.
That's exactly the point I was making.
But if what you're expressing is just illogical and completely coming from a point that cannot be defended, then we have that choice to counter it. And if our argument wins in the end, then that's the point here.
Well, we should have, Alan, but there is a sort of cancel culture on both sides, isn't there? On every side,
yes,
there are people that want to cancel things out, whether it's left or right, Vaughan. That's one of my points. Whether it's gay or straight, whatever it is, you can always find someone that wants to shut you up, wants to eliminate you, because their version of democracy is God's version of democracy.
Well, that's
what I can't accept.
Danny and Vaughan, you guys are arguing from the exact same side. It's just that the perspective is slightly a little bit different, right?
I just don't like the idea of we have to support authoritarianism. I don't think we do.
Vaughan, you're
muted.
Oh, I wasn't saying I support authoritarianism. I'm just saying that, I think in one way, the reason like Russia works for being such a diverse country is it does have that authoritarianism, and everybody knows the rule, and you don't step over the line. You get punished. But here, I don't think that would work here, just because we're so far removed from that kind of authority that, it would probably take decades, if not a century, of just total oppression to ever make that happen.
Well,